So if you're thinking about making a move in the Halifax real estate market, maybe you're moving here, maybe you've just decided it's time to actually find a new place in the Halifax area, maybe you're just one of those people that wants to be up to date on what's going on in the market, well, if any of those three things apply to you, then my channel right here is where you need to be, and we're going to give you some information about what happened in November. Hi everyone, it's Richard Payne here from Halifax Homes and Lifestyles at eXp Realty, right here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. But actually right here is actually Fall River, Nova Scotia, because that's where I live. Now we're here because it is the start of December. We're looking back at November, but we're also going to start looking pretty much at like the whole year of 2020 versus the whole year of 2021, because surprisingly, it's actually been a little bit different from last year to this year. We know in 2020 that our market just took off like a rocket, and it was around about May, June time last year. And when we'll get into some details to show you exactly when it happened, but like the jump is just incredible. You can see the volume of houses that get sold in the month go up. You can see the inventory start disappearing rapidly. But when you start looking at 2021, like we know that we've just flatlined on inventory. We've been around about like 0.7 to 0.8 of a month, basically every month for the whole of 2021 so far. So what we're going to do is actually do a little bit of a comparison of 2021 versus 2020 to give you some insight as to what's changed. And then of course, like because we're pretty much at the end of the year, we'll give you a little bit of an insight as to what we expect is going to happen in 2022. Here's a tip. It's going to be the same. Like it's not going to change actually that much from year to year, just because of the amount of inventory that we are struggling with. Like we just don't have the volume of houses for sale. So that's one of the things they're going to check on. Now, what we want to do first of all, of course, is go back to November, have a little look at what's going on with the stats there. So the headline numbers that we're going to be looking for are how many houses actually sold in November this year. So that was only 414 homes. Now we've got a population of roughly 500,000 people in HRM, so the Halifax Regional Municipality. Record growth in terms of that population as well. But when you look at the number of houses sold at only 414, that's not really a huge amount of houses sold. Compared to last year, November, 595, so nearly 200 homes more last year was sold compared to this year. Now let's look at that wonderful thing that everybody wants to know, which is what's the average price? Well, we're actually sitting at $499,849. Let's call it $500,000 more or less, which is actually down a little bit from last month, because last month was higher than that. So we're down around about 6% from last month. But then when you look at last year's average price was $418,000. We are up 20% from November last year to November this year. And yeah, down 4% basically on October. Now when we look at the amount of percentage over asking price that we're having to pay to get these houses sold, this year in November, 9.1%. So the average listing price was $458, average selling price was $500, a little bit less than $500, but that equates to 9.1%. Last year, that was only 1.2%. So November last year was very different to November this year. Looking at days on market, 20 days on market on average to sell your house here in November 2021. That was only 32 days last year. So again, you can see a pretty big change in the number there as well. Number of active homes. So how many houses are actually for sale? 243. That's not a lot of homes in a population of roughly 500,000 people. And that is what is basically, as I said last month in October, that's what's driving basically the whole of 2021 is we just do not have enough houses for sale. And when we get into some of the actual areas specifically, we'll find out like basically, is it new builds that are causing the problem? Is it the fact that people just don't want to move? Like what's happening? So we'll delve into those later. Months of inventory, end of November 2020, it was 1 month. 2021, we're at 0.6 months, so not a huge amount of change. But when you also look at the sales to new listing ratio, this is another key thing that will give you an example of what's going on. Sales this year, November, we said were 414. We only listed 379 homes. So that's 109% sale to listing ratio in terms of volume, like how many houses were actually sold. Last year, that was 595 new, listed 491, so we listed an extra 100 homes last year, and that gave us 121% sale to listing ratio. So The more over 100% that number is, it means that we're selling more homes than we're actually bringing to the market, which clearly is going to make inventory do this, is going to go down. So that's really what we're seeing. Now, when we start comparing some of this stuff to last year, one of the key things that we wanted to look at is basically the number of houses sold. So we peaked last year in June 2020, we had like 741 homes sold. And the graph is definitely kind of shaping down as we get towards the end of the year. But this year, we've started from a much, much lower point. Like, you know, when you look at the actual graph, our peak house sales this year were actually in April at 780, but we've dropped pretty quickly then down to like the early 600s. And we've just been sliding down a lot quicker when you kind of look at the graph from this year to last year. And that's the same thing that's going to show up when you look at the months of inventory. We've flatlined like the whole month basically. Just bringing up the little piece of paper here. So we've flatlined basically from November 2020, it was 1 month. We've gone up to 1.2 months in January of this year, and then we've been like 0.6, 0.5, 0.9, 0.6, 0.5. So we've just not been able to add any inventory to the actual properties that are for sale right now at all. And that really is showing up as one of our major issues this month, when you kind of start looking at everything that's going on. Now, when we get into some detail, let's look at some specific markets here. Now, number one market was actually Timberley, St. Margaret's Bay, Prospect area. Now, when you look at that, they had 35 homes for sale, average price point there of $535,000, 42 days on market, so that's like nearly double the average. 0.7 months of inventory, 23 homes active. But when I looked at some of the detail in there, this is a very varied area. Like when you look at like how many homes are being sold, there's an awful lot of oceanfront properties down there. So there was about there was two houses that were well over $1 million that got sold down there, but they're on the ocean. So they're in areas like Glenhaven and a couple of other sub-districts where you actually get oceanfront properties. But the rest of it was just like larger homes. So the larger the home, the bigger the price point is going to be. So when you start looking at those areas, it's just varied. But they are the number one selling market for November. Number two was back into Bedford. Now Bedford was 33 homes sold. There's only 10 homes active on the market, so that's 0.3 of a month. Average price point there is 657. Surprisingly, absolutely no brand new houses were sold in that market, which is traditionally parts of Bedford West. We know there's a huge amount of new homes, but they did have 3 homes that were actually well over $1 million that sold in those areas. And I think there was about 10 that were actually really close to that $1 million, so like 9 to 950 range as well. So when you start factoring all of those in, that's why Bedford at 657 has got such a big average price point. 10 days on market there, so like not too much. 5.6% over asking price, which is pretty good. And then we come back to our good old, what used to be our traditional starter market, which is Sackville. 32 homes sold there, average price point $381,000. But that area is made up of 2 areas. So there's Lower Sackville and there's Middle Sackville. Lower Sackville is more like a 330 average price point, but once you hit Middle Sackville, you're getting into bigger pieces of land, bigger properties, so the price is naturally going to be a little bit higher, and that's what drags that whole area up. So like you're still looking at $330,000 on average for like the starter home style actually down in Lower Sackville, which for a starter home, like, you know, we go back 2 years, that was our average price point for the whole of HRM. So it's changed a lot. So that's really what's going on. Now, what that actually means, so if you're a buyer right now, what that means for you is we're still struggling to find houses that are actually going to fit the criteria. It still means that we're going into multiple offers and we're still going over asking price. Like when you looked at the numbers, we were 9% over asking price on average. Check your specific area though, because it does vary by area. We don't want to just go, okay, it's 9%, here we go. If you're looking at a specific area, do the research just in that area. Like you don't really care about the whole of HRM if you're just buying in Middle Sackville or if you're buying in Montebello Estates in Dartmouth. You know, you want to check that specific area. So do your due diligence. You're going to have to be patient if you're a buyer, but also we know for buyers that mortgage rates are going to be going up next year. So don't slow down, like push hard on that pedal and get out there and actually start looking at the houses and make good, solid, competitive offers. Work with a good realtor who knows exactly your situation, who can make sure you're going to stay within your budget, because the last thing you want to do as a buyer is find the house of your dreams, get your offer accepted. I mean, that's a cause for celebration at start, but then find that you're going to fail on financing because you overstretched your budget compared to what you were pre-approved for. So make sure that you're actually shopping in the right budget so you can actually continue and buy that property. So that's what's going on for the buyers. For sellers, what it means is there is no competition. Like literally, there are so few houses for sale inside of HRM right now. Like we're here in Fall River, and Fall River has usually got like 20 to 30 houses for sale. We've got 5 right now. So in terms of a seller, this is really going to be one of those best times to actually think about putting your house up for sale, because there isn't a lot of competition. There is a huge amount of demand for the houses. And so long as you've got the price, the condition, and the location, then those 3 factors are going to mean that you're on multiple offers. You're going to get quite a good amount of money over asking price, you know, as long as you've been sensible with where you actually priced the property in the start. And then also as long as the condition is really good, because that's the one thing I'm hearing from all the people that I'm working with as a buyer, is they are not looking to spend a ton of money and a ton of time fixing up a property. That they're already having to kind of, it feels like, go really competitive on price as well. So from a seller point of view, you're in the perfect situation to actually get the maximum benefit and actually achieve the result that you're looking for in terms of price. So those are what it means for the buyers, those are what it means for the sellers. Predictions for the future, it's not really going to change. Like, unless we get the sudden rush of like brand new houses that the builders are going to release onto the market in the new year, unless we find just a lot more people that are willing to actually say, yeah, it's time, I'm going to sell my house, we are really going to be in that same situation at least for the rest of next year. Mortgage rates are going to go up, we're pretty sure of that. Everybody's saying the same thing. So with that happening as well, maybe that's going to curb some of that demand. So from a seller point of view, really you've probably got like 2 to 4 months when you kind of go, okay, this is the time to capitalize on the market and actually get the best price possible. So if you have any questions of any of this, all the details are kind of lining up around me all over the place, but we'd love to have a conversation, see what your real estate needs are, and make a plan for you for next year and get you the result you want.